study the strategic and constitutional crosswinds of national identity in public service subject, the cabinet nomination of Dr. Lawrence Muganga, and the weaponization of dual citizenship in Uganda. To start with the executive summary, this case study examines the intersection of transnational identity, constitutional supremacy, and local political warfare in Uganda. It focuses on the May 2026 appointment of Dr. Lawrence Muganga, the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University, Kampala, as the State Minister for Internal Affairs. Muganga's transition from academia to national security leadership has triggered a major institutional standoff. The case illustrates a modern political phenomenon. Our administrative state dockets controlling national identity systems are transformed into battlegrounds where a nominee's personal citizenship, cross-border history, and documentation timeline are weaponized by adversaries. It further explores the legal precedence of this standoff by drawing a historical parallel to the citizenship battles faced by veteran Minister Engineer Onek. First, look at the context. Disruptive academic. Prior to his entry into frontline politics, Dr. Lawrence Muganga established a prominent national profile as an educational reformer, serving as the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University, Kampala, an institution under the Rupaela Group. Muganga disrupted traditional, rigid academic frameworks by championing authentic, experimental, employment-ready education over standard theoretical testing. He also drove an aggressive digital transformation, integrating artificial intelligence tools, digital environments, and highly visible youth-centric social media marketing. This unorthodox, high-visibility administrative style built a substantial public following among Ugandan youth. It caught the attention of the executive branch as a model for modernizing slow-moving state bureaucracies. The second thing is the catalyst, the 2026 cabinet reserve. On May 26, 2026, following the inauguration of the country's 12th parliament, President Yoweri Museveni announced a sweeping cabinet shuffle for the 2026-2031. Among the new faces was Dr. Lawrence Muganga, appointed as the State Minister for Internal Affairs to serve alongside Cabinet Minister Professor Ephraim Kamuntu. The strategic irony of the appointment was immediate. The Ministry of Internal Affairs directly oversees the National Identification and Registration Authority, that's NIRA, the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigration Control, that's DCIC, Border Management, Passport Issuance, and Refugee Affairs. Muganga, an academic who had previously been a vocal advocate for identity rights and an outspoken critic of bureaucratic profiling at immigration dockets, was suddenly handed the keys to the very apparatus he had challenged. Now the standoff, dual citizenship and the paper trail. Within 48 hours of the announcement, political adversaries and Kampala legal actors launched an aggressive counteroffensive before Parliament's Appointments Committee, chaired by Speaker Jacob Oboth. Unlike vague rumors of heritage, the petition led by legal actors, including Derek Frederick Namakyagul, relied on an empirical paper trail regarding Muganga's acquired status in Canada, where he completed his PhD at the University of Alberta and worked as a government policy maker or policy advisor. The timeline of the documentation. The document submitted to the vetting committee revealed a highly specific administrative timeline. November 8, 2024, Muganga formally registered his dual citizenship status to regionalize his standing in Uganda. February 26, 2026, he was issued his current Ugandan passport. May 26, 2026, he was nominated to the cabinet. The fifth schedule, which is the legal trap. Petitioners demanded that Parliament completely halt or reject Muganga's vetting based on Section 19D and the 5th schedule of the Ugandan Citizenship and Immigration Control Act. The statutory restriction, while dual citizenship is legally permitted in Uganda for ordinary citizens, the 5th schedule of the Act strictly prohibits dual nationals from holding specific sensitive public offices. This list explicitly includes the President, Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, and Ministers of State. The petitioners argued that because Muganga holds an active Canadian passport alongside his Ugandan documentation, he is statutorily disqualified from taking the oath of office unless he produces an official certificate proving he has fully renounced his Canadian citizenship. The legal counterattack. Statutory law versus constitutional supremacy. The defense mounted by Muganga's legal team and constitutional scholars avoided the facts of his paperwork and instead attacked the validity of the law itself. This counter strategy created a profound constitutional question for the 12th Parliament. On one side of the dispute is the statutory restriction of the Citizenship and Immigration Act's 5th schedule, which explicitly bars dual citizens from serving as ministers of state and is relied upon by petitioners to halt parliamentary vetting. On the other side stands the principle of constitutional supremacy under Article 15 of the Constitution of Uganda. This article legalizes dual nationality and guarantees equal public service rights to all eligible citizens. Muganga's defense argues that under Article 15, any individual qualified to stand as a member of Parliament possesses the fundamental right to be appointed to the cabinet. Because the Constitution does not explicitly bar dual citizens from ministerial dockets within its text, the defense maintains that the statutory restriction is inconsistent with the Supreme Constitution, making the 5th schedule null and void to the extent of its inconsistency. The historical precedent, the Onek case. The weaponization of nationality had a high watermark of a political career is not a new phenomenon in Ugandan legislative history. The Muganga standoff directly mirrors the historical precedent of engineer Onek, a long-serving cabinet member who also held the internal affairs portfolio. Key conceptual parallels and differences. Nature of the allegation. The challenge against Onek was a question of ancestral lineage, as he was accused of being a Sudanese national by blood. In contrast, the Dr. Lawrence Muganga standoff centers on a question of acquired paperwork as a confirmed dual Ugandan Canadian citizen. The target docket similarity. Both incidents directly targeted high-profile leadership positions within the Ministry of Internal Affairs, weaponizing identity precisely when the individuals were chosen to protect the state's security and identity dockets. Strategic timing. Onek was challenged on the flow of parliament during critical political transition, mirroring how petitioners targeted Muganga immediately during his former parliamentary vetting window. Now, resolution strategy. While Onek resolved his crisis by producing physical proof of local ancestry and his connection to the Palabek chieftaincy in Lamore, Muganga's team is forced to rely on high-level constitutional interpretation and the legal supremacy of Article 15 over ordinary statutes. The triple citizenship, myth versus regional geopolitics. Let's look at past East Canadian citizenship, because Muganga's case study is further complicated by historical cross-border friction following his employment as an internal auditor for the Rwanda Revenue Authority in the early 2000s. Political critics have repeatedly alleged that he holds a third citizenship with Rwanda. This regional identity friction previously culminated in a dramatic September 2021 military arrest where joint security forces detained Muganga from his Victoria University office on allegations of espionage and illegal stay. He was released unconditionally 48 hours later after his Ugandan national identification credentials were authenticated. From a legal standpoint, the triple citizenship allegation remains unsubstantiated. Under Rwandan immigration law, if a citizen acquires a foreign nationality, such as Canadian, without formally notifying the relevant embassy within 90 days, their prior citizenship automatically expires by default. No active documentation proving a third nationality has ever been tabled before the appointments committee. So the current status and key takeaways. As of late May 2026, Dr. Lawrence Muganga remains a minister designate in administrative limbo. The Parliament of Uganda faces a highly consequential decision. It must either pause vetting to force a ruling on the validity of the dual citizenship status or approve the nomination and defer the constitutional dispute to the Constitutional Court for judicial review, something very risky. Now, diving into key institutional takeaways. 1. The vulnerability of transitional elites, highly educated, globally mobile professionals who return to East Africa to join public service remain highly vulnerable to local protectionists and legal technicalities regarding foreign passports. Secondly, the ambiguity of the dual nationality. Despite the nominal legalization of dual citizenship across the East African community, national security frameworks maintain a deep-seated institutional distrust of dual nationals occupying sensitive state offices. Thirdly, the irony of policy dockets. In modern administrative politics, executive aides of state strategically use individuals who have survived profiling by national security systems to lead and reform those exact migration and identity bureaucracies. Thank you.